Sup, dude? If you're white, like to hoop, and shoot a lot of threes, it's likely someone's called you Kyle Korver. There are dudes who get offended by that, but in my opinion, it's one of the greatest nicknames a honky can be bestowed. Standing at 6'7" with the face of Ashton Kutcher, Threesis was Chris Kyle from long range. For his career, he shot 43% from three-point land, and like a dominatrix, he had that strap on at all times. Defenders couldn't give him an inch of space. Off ball, he never stopped flying around the court, running his man through screens, searching for any opportunity to launch it. Constant movement paired with his very quick high release made him one of the most annoying dudes to cover, though not many people understand just how great he really was. His career scoring average of 10 points per game doesn't help his case, but those who got to watch him understand the massive effect he had on court. Long before the NBA, the dude popped out of his mom March 17th, 1981 in Paramount, California. He was born into a family full of pastors, luckily not the ones who touched kids. They were good people and they instilled good Christian values in him, which turned him into a very caring person. Later on in life, this led to him creating a foundation that has helped all kinds of people. One of the many good deeds it brought was the construction of a ramp for a 6-year-old boy in a wheelchair. The ramp allowed the little dude to independently go to and from his house. That, along with many other great things, were all possible thanks to Korver's good heart, but also his Johnny Sins-like stroke. He wouldn't have been able to do such amazing things without the fat bag his jumper made him. Not including endorsements, throughout his career he earned a whopping $80 million. The dude was pretty good at basketball. Besides all the hard work and dedication, he got so good because it was in his blood. Both of his parents hooped in college, and what's ridiculous is one time in high school his mom dropped 74 points. They may have named him Kyle, but he wasn't going to be putting holes in walls, only balls in nets. Growing up in California during the 80s, Kyle was a huge Showtime Lakers fan. They showed him what perfect basketball looked like. Everybody passed and moved without the ball. He instilled this philosophy into his own game, which set him on a path of success. At around age 12, his family moved to Pella, Iowa, where a few years later he became a standout for their high school basketball team. Although there isn't much information regarding his high school stats, I think it's safe to assume he was a dog. Creighton sure thought so. The small Catholic college in Omaha, Nebraska had a thing for God-fearing guys who could shoot. Kyle was their wet dream, and lucky for them, they were his. As a freshman, Korver didn't start, but every time he got on the court, he made his presence felt, lighting the net on fire from deep. Over 33 games, he averaged 18 minutes, scoring 9 points while shooting an impressive 43% from three-point range. When adjusted per 40 minutes, he was the team's leading scorer, averaging 19.4 points per game. His production helped Creighton reach the tournament where they faced Auburn in the first round. In that game, Korver played 28 minutes, but he sucked. He couldn't throw a beach ball in the ocean, shooting just 2 for 10 from distance. They lost 72-69, and had he made just 1 or 2 more shots, they could have won. Rough way to end the year, but the next season he got promoted to starter and was now playing over 30 minutes a night. With his new role, he increased his scoring average to a team-leading 14.6 points per game. And even though he was shooting way more, he managed to improve his three-point efficiency to 45%. This helped them get back in the tournament, but once again, Korver struggled when the lights were brightest. He did his best Stevie Wonder impression, shooting just 2 for 13 from long range. They lost, but the following season they returned and he redeemed himself. In the first round against Florida, he shot 4 for 6 from deep, playing a huge role in securing his first ever tournament win. Unfortunately, that would be the only tournament win of his collegiate career. They lost in the very next round, and then during his senior year, they lost in the first round again. Despite the tournament misfortune, as a senior, he was amazing. He was a consensus All-American and shot a scorching 48% from 3 on 8 attempts, while also averaging 6.4 rebounds and 1.5 steals. He concluded his college career as one of the greatest shooters in NCAA history with a wild 371 trays to his name. That's pretty sick. You know what isn't pretty sick? Spam calls and texts. I hate getting spam so much because it makes my private info feel vulnerable. Here's one I just got. You may have gotten one like this too. Delete it immediately. I know one of the reasons I get so many spam texts and calls is because big companies can't keep our data safe. Recently, Ticketmaster was hacked and the data of 560 million users was put up for sale on the dark web. The data stolen includes full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and credit card data. At best, this is going to lead to so much more spam, at worst, fraud. So what is Ticketmaster doing about it? Nothing. They said they didn't think the hack would have a material impact on our overall business. All these businesses happily collect our data but do nothing to protect it. That's why I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura alerts me when my data has been part of a data breach or leaked on the dark web. It gives me fast fraud alerts if anyone tries to use that data to access my credit or bank accounts. And it removes my information from data broker websites so I get less spam. I also get things like transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus, a password manager, parental controls, and identity theft insurance. I get this all in one app at one affordable price. If my info was compromised in the Ticketmaster data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura's always on, always doing the hard hard work of keeping me safe. I'm not leaving myself or my family vulnerable to data breaches, and if you don't want to either, you can go to Aura.com/NBAGoober and try your first 2 weeks for free. Also linked in the description, and big thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. Anywho, despite being one of the greatest three-point shooters in NCAA history, Korver was not highly touted in the 2003 draft. He flew under the radar and didn't end up getting selected until the 51st pick. The team that picked him was New Jersey, who was fresh off a finals appearance, and he was really excited to play for them, but then no joke, they traded him to the 76ers for a copy machine. He was a lot less excited to go to Philly, but it turned out to be a great spot for him. It was great because they had Allen Iverson and a bunch of dudes who couldn't shoot. AI wasn't going to pass it to dudes who couldn't shoot, so Kyle quickly became one of his favorites. AI constantly reminded Kyle to keep letting it fly and instilled tons of confidence in him. Kyle needed that because as a rookie he didn't play much, averaging just 12 minutes a game, but during those 12 minutes he shot 39% from behind the arc on nearly 3 attempts. By the end of his rookie year he was already one of the best snipers in the league, but with AI's guidance he was about to become one of the best ever. Because of the promise he showed in year 1, by year 2 his minutes skyrocketed from 12 to over 30 a game, and with more playing time came a lot more opportunities from long range. In his second year he averaged 7 attempts from distance, knocking down a little over 40% of them. By the end of the season he had drilled a league-leading 226 threes with top 20 efficiency. The dude was Billy the Kid, and not only could he shoot the lights out, but he also did some damage on the boards, grabbing nearly 5 rebounds a night to go along with 2 assists and a steal. New Jersey definitely regretted buying that copy machine. The next year Philly gave him a 6-year $25 million extension, which he happily signed. Just a few years into that contract he became the franchise's second best three-point shooter ever. Individually he had been flourishing, but as a team they were in the pits of hell. Even with AI they couldn't make it to the playoffs. Because of this, in 2006 the Sixers looked to go in a different direction, trading Iverson to Denver. Not long after, during the middle of Kyle's 5th season, he got traded too. They sent him out west to the land of the Mormons, where he teamed up with Carlos Boozer and Darren Williams. The Jazz were much better than Philly, but they weren't huge on three-pointers. Because of this, once Korver started playing for them, his minutes got cut to 20 a night and he was only averaging about 3 attempts from behind the arc. Although he had much less opportunity, it led to him breaking the record for highest three-point percentage ever. In 2010 he shot 110 threes and made 59 of them, good for damn near 54%. To this day he still holds that record. 3 seasons was all he spent in Utah, but in all 3 seasons they made the playoffs. They just couldn't get past the second round. So when Korver's contract ended in 2010 he decided to not re-sign and instead signed a 3-year $15 million deal with Chicago, joining Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng. In his first season with them they went on a rampage led by MVP D Rose, winning a league-leading 62 games. They sat pretty atop the Eastern Conference. Like in Utah, Kyle played a bench role, getting around 20 minutes a night, but in those 20 minutes he provided much needed spacing and would usually knock down 1 or 2 threes. By the end of the regular season he averaged 8 points per game and shot over 40% from deep. The dude knew his role and played it well, especially in the first round of the playoffs. Being the first seed, the Bulls matched up against the 8th seeded Pacers, and through 3 games Kyle was locked the fuck in. He shot 7 for 8 from distance, helping Chicago go up 3-0. Then 2 games later they put Indiana out of their misery. The next round they went up against the 5th seeded Hawks, and in games 1 and 3 Korver shot 6 for 8 from deep, but in games 2, 4, 5, and 6 he shot just 2 for 13. His jumper was inconsistent, but they still ended up winning the series, moving on to the conference finals to face off against LeBron, D Wade, and the Boschosaurus. In game 1 of the series Korver didn't do much. He hit a 3 and got a steal, but they completely violated the Heatles and won by 20. With the 1-0 lead things were looking great, but they wouldn't for long. By game 2 Miami locked in and won the next 4 straight, moving on to the finals while the Bulls went back to the drawing board. It sucked their season ended that way, but what sucked even more is in the first game of the playoffs the very next year their star point guard of the future tore his ACL. This destroyed Chicago, and a few months later they traded Korver to Atlanta for a bag of chips. It was 2012 and Korver was 31, but nobody realized he was about to enter his prime. Unlike in Chicago and Utah, Atlanta started and played him over 30 minutes a night. Because of the bigger role in his first year with the Hawks, he was able to average double-digit scoring for the first time since 2007. Then the next year he kept his scoring up and also led the league in three-point percentage, shooting 47% from deep. Through 2 years in the A, he played really well, but Indiana bounced them in the first round both years. The team was incredibly mid. Heading into the 2014 and 15 season, they didn't change the roster much, and it seemed like history would repeat itself. But to everyone's surprise, it didn't. Utilizing the powers of friendship, in 2015, the Hawks managed to win 60 games and claim the first seed in the East. Their starting 5 was Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, DeMarre Carroll, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford. They didn't have a single star player, but working together, 4 of them became all-stars, including Kyle, who averaged just 12 points. Each of the dudes were equally important to the team's success, but high-key, Kyle had a strong argument to be the most important. Reason being the threat of his shot was what made their offense so deadly. Basically, all their plays involved him flying off screens and letting it rip. That season, he shot a league-leading 49% from 3 on 6 attempts a night. He was deadly. The nights his shot was off, times got tough, but when he was hitting, they had the best offense in NBA history. He may have only averaged 12 points, but it was the most electric 12 points you'll ever see. After dominating the regular season, shit hit the fan in the playoffs. The Hawks struggled against Brooklyn and Washington in the first and second round, then they got their salad tossed by LeBron in the conference finals. Korver was great, but in game 2 against the Cavs, Matthew Dellavedova dove into his leg and ended his season. Fuck that little Australian idiot, but the Hawks were destined to get molested anyway, so whatever. After that, Korver played 1.5 more seasons in Atlanta, then they traded him to Cleveland. He joined the Cavs right in time to get throat throttled by the Warriors in the 2017 and 2018 finals, then his career was pretty much over. Although he didn't put up crazy stats, Kyle Korver was a killer. The dude shot the shit out of that ball. It's just a shame he wasn't able to get a ring. You know who else was a killer that deserved a ring? Joakim Noah. You can click here to watch the video I made on him. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, dude.